Good evening, everyone. It's June 10th, 2020, and this is Rasaki Maskani. On Sunday, June 7th, uh, my, my buddy and I had a conversation, and I wanted to play it for you. So check it out, and this is the beginning of a journey. Good morning to you, Brother Iration. This is Rasaki Maskani. Here with my brother, we're going to have a conversation here.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. We are joining together to start a website, a YouTube channel. We're going to write some books and do a live online radio show to feature scholars and people of like mind to help aid the effort in making things better in our world, uh, specifically for Black people, since we're in a condition that we both agree that's not good. But I want to go ahead and have Brother Iration introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself.
Good afternoon, sir. Well, I'm just glad to be on the planet at my age. I'm an older Black male, so I've managed to survive through this point and see a lot of history made. And I guess my growing up in the South, I really didn't get a lot of history. I had no idea that I had enemies on the planet. And this was something that I actually had to learn. And I actually had to experience in college playing sports, playing ball. And it's been just one gigantic learning experience. And as a male, our mind is always looking to be fed. So there was a time in my life when I was actually looking for liberation information. And I would thumb through the computer, radio stations looking for liberation information. And actually, I ran into one brother named Ray Hagen, and from Ray Hagen, it took me to Dr. Cambone, John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, and it just took me through a lot. And ever since then, I've just been embedded in learning and trying to find out why our people are in the state of condition they're in.
So you mentioned some scholars. Now, I went to school at Long Beach State, and you did also. I know that much about you. We both played basketball. You're from the early 80s, I'm from the late 80s. And I was introduced to a particular scholar, Professor Amin Ra. He's a professor emeritus now. And he was very instrumental in my life in guiding and helping me to become the person that I am today. So, what are some key scholars that influence your thinking?
At the very top, I would give you Dr. Kamal Kambon, uh, super knowledgeable brother. Every word that comes out of his mouth is just off the universe. Dr. Neely Fuller, Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, Amos Wilson, um, also Malcolm X. I listen to Malcolm X. I mean, it's just a host of them. You have some sisters in there too, Michelle Alexander. Uh, it's just the list can go on and on and on. And just from listening to those scholars, and I started to read books, and I started to learn more and more about my history, and I also started to learn more and more about my enemy's history. and it helped close the information gap to give me a deeper understanding of where we are on the planet.
Well, to make things clear, what do you mean your enemies? Who is your enemy? You have a enemy?
Oh, our enemies are European based. Now, don't get me wrong, I got some that look like me as well. So we got that as well too. But just throughout history, uh, learning my history and learning my enemy's history has really helped me close that information gap. Um,
So, question for you then. So, enemies can come in more of the form of just Europeans. You could say you have enemies that's just like you.
oh, absolutely. We have rats in our race. We have snitches in our race. We have people that are just that look like me, but they are not for people like me, and I know that. So of course.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll give you a little background on myself. I know you didn't ask, but I
Okay, brother Rosaki, I'd like for you to give me or give the audience a little background on yourself.
well, I'm gonna be as brief as possible for the sake of time. I was raised in Compton, California. Uh, I was educated there. I went on to play 2 years of basketball at Washington State University, transferred to Compton College, got an AA degree. From there, I went to Long Beach State to complete my 4 years of college basketball on the Division I level. Like yourself, Iration, you played at Long Beach State. So I I've been teaching for the past 25 years on the high school level, mathematics, and through my learning, I've learned a lot about world conditions through observation and analyzing. So I'm basically a lifelong learner, and I'm a person that subscribe to continuous growth and elevation as a human being. No matter how old that we're getting or aging, we're still able to stimulate our minds and become better people.
Okay, now another question for you, brother. With all the recent violence being perpetrated upon black people, and especially black males, what would you say is the condition of blacks in America and blacks worldwide?
Well, if anyone carefully take a look, I always say if you walk down the street in urban areas and see the condition of a lot of people, you have people that are homeless, you have people that are constantly acting in a manner that's not conducive to a healthy environment. Whenever I take walks and being, I live in Los Angeles now, and I just take a look at the condition of people and their mentality, it could be very disturbing if you just take a close look at it. Now, I'm not one to trample on people because of their condition, because I have my own flaws. That's why I said I'm a life learner, and I continue to do to recreate myself and and do better. I always strive to do better than what I'm doing now. So it's like it's continuous learning. So the condition of a lot of people are, to me, in my opinion, primitive, being that we could be a lot better than what we are as people in general. So the condition of our, I would say, is very primitive because people don't know how to interact with each other in a manner where things are at ease and cooperative, and it's always a rush, a hurry to do a whole bunch of nothing,
Question for you.
insignificant things.
Question
Yes.
for you. So, do you think that our history and our role that slavery played upon us have an effect?
Most definitely. If you are a person that studies behavior and like I'll give you an example. When Africans were enslaved in the United States, they were stripped of everything, and it's called the dehumanization process, where they were stripped of culture, food, language, and almost everything. So what people had to do that were enslaved had to create a new way of living. And one if you can look at food, Africans were given these African slaves were given the scraps of every food that the slave masters provided for them. So they were scraps and all that. So out of that was a creation of soul food.
Okay.
And there's healthy aspects of soul food, but there's also unhealthy aspects of soul food. So therefore, with that was a way of not only surviving, but you was creating an abundance of eating foods that damages your body.
Okay.
So now, moving through the years up until now, which is 2020, June 7th, you have a lot of black people that are unhealthy from the acquired way of eating through slavery.
Right.
So when you're stripped of everything, you have to recreate yourself in the conditions that you're in. And in that, the African became very unhealthy, not only food wise, but mental wise too. And there's a thing of wanting to be like your captor, and wanting to be like your captor gives you an unhealthy way of living because they're not living correctly either.
So you're saying blacks and Africans, which I think is pretty much, we will agree, synonymous.
Oh yes, yes.
So you're basically saying that many of our people have taken on the ways of the slave owner, and these ways have pretty much led to their demise. And I guess I'm safe to say that there are some things about our captors' way of living. Say, for instance, like religion, Jesus, walking on water, different things like that, have a lot of our people confused in their streams of thought. They won't stop to question things that don't even make sense. And I guess I could safely say that our people need to get back to common sense, logic, and sound right reasoning. Could you touch on that?
Is that a quote from anyone? Or
Well, it's my own personal quote.
Oh, well, that's excellent.
Okay.
Can you repeat that, please?
I think that blacks need to get back to common sense, logic, and sound right reasoning. And once you stick to those, you'll be on the far end of the spectrum from being confused.
That's excellent. What I can contribute to that is when you're taught to take on the mentality of make believe. You have Santa Claus, you have an Easter bunny.
Okay.
You have all of these make believe entities in your upbringing. And once you get to a certain age, you start wondering, like, wait a minute, Santa Claus is not real?
All
right. Easter Bunny's not real. You have all of these things.
Red-nosed reindeer.
Red-nosed reindeer.
Flying on a sleigh. a big fat man coming down through your chimney, delivering gifts.
It's so much that you learn that was pretend and make believe. So you start getting accustomed to this train of thought.
It's like a merry-go-round,
right? Yeah, you're lying. You're being taught to lie. There's so many things that is not healthy in that type of upbringing and learning. So yes, that's a heavy contributor to the dysfunction of the African mind.
So I guess it would be safe to say that Easter bunnies don't lay eggs. Is that right?
Well, yes, that's correct.
Okay. So from my understanding, Astaroth was the goddess of fertility, according to European Romans. And Astaroth was this symbol of fertility. So from my understanding is that what they did back in the day, they took the women and painted them colors and let them run out in the woods, and then they went and had unbridled sex with these women. So that egg is a symbol of fertility. So this is how we got the egg and the Easter bunny.
So, where did you come about this information?
Well, this is just, like I told you, I've done some extensive historical research and reading. And, I mean, just take, for example, you ever seen any of the statues from Rome when you see the pictures of Greek where you got two naked men standing and posing? You ever seen anything such thing like that?
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen statues like that.
So it's their
pictures. Yes.
Well, just pictures. I mean, it's their history. It's their history. So I mean, even like for instance, Halloween. From what I understand with that, they would try to paint themselves up, cover up with masks and everything because they thought the dead was coming back to get them. So we're celebrating this, and we got our kids doing this stuff year after year, like a merry-go-round, and we're buying them candy and this kind of stuff, and we're celebrating these holidays, which absolutely really have nothing to do with us and our growth in this country.
So I want to piggyback on what you asked me. What is the current state of the world, in your opinion?
What I mean, are you talking about the world or just black people, just the world period?
Period.
Well, the world right now, and it's been this way, really just turmoil. It's wars are all over the place. This country can't get along with this country. This country see resources they want in another country, so they're going and kill up and drop bombs, and all the governments, the news media stations, and all that governments, all of them are pretty much the same around the country. In addition to just talk about the current state of the world right now, I'd like to touch on the state of Black America and even blacks around the world in general. What our oppressor has done, they brought in much deceit, much terror, and this is how they control people, through deceit and terror and mind control. And this place is like an international prison, international war zone. And as you can see, they really don't really care about blacks, and especially males. I mean, our young black men are being slaughtered like animals in the street. You know what? If you and I were to go outside right now and choke a dog to death, we would go to jail instantly. But now, matter of fact, I knew of a case where there was, I believe this guy was a postman, and this dog would try to attack him, and he got so pissed off with the dog one day, he brought a bow and arrow and shot the dog with an arrow. He got arrested. But now, cops can murder you outright open in public, come up with the same old lie. They thought he had a gun, or he was this, or he had plaque in his heart, he had, his arteries was hardening up. Anything they can come up with as a weak defense to try to justify murdering us in the street. So this is nothing new. I mean, they're just actually coming out in open public with it and actually in your face. And so we have to take note of these things, and we have to ask ourselves, really and truly, is protesting, marching, turn the other cheek the answer?
Well, it may help bring about some awareness, more awareness of what's going on, especially with technology being available. I think it may help in some kind of way. But I have my own thoughts of things that we could do as people.
Okay.
Just like just by us coming together and talking and looking for ways to help the situation through education and awareness, and then implementation of different ideas. So what I see is primitive thinking being played out not only by the oppressor but by the oppressed. And if we can elevate our minds, I think that will contribute to the necessary change to get to the point where we want to be liberated from a state of array. It's our condition is pretty terrible if you look at it.
Well, question for you: do you think that to start to close the gap for people, do you think this information, like historical information, uh, some true facts, not propaganda, not controlled information, some real hardcore information would be enough to wake up people much more faster?
Well, history is very important because it's. I had a professor at Long Beach State, and he said history is for the truth is ever evolving. Things are evolving to more to more truth, and more research and information being gathered to bring about truth. And history, I'm going to bring on people that are historical teachers and with wonderful information to speak about history and how important it is. But I think currently people have to look within themselves to deal with their flaws. And if you recognize it, the recognition of, first of all, that we've been in a situation where it hasn't been beneficial for Black and African people. So if you really look at how things are playing out and how they've been playing out, we should want to be different from that. Shouldn't want to keep repeating behaviors that's not successful. Neely Fuller, a wonderful teacher that has a weekly show on every week about racism, white supremacy, and how you can counter that. So one way to counter that is looking at yourself and seeing the state of mind that you currently have.
Mm-hmm.
And with that state of mind, being that you've been incarcerated with European way of thinking, United States way of thinking, with that being noted, then you can begin to start changing the way you think through history,
Okay.
through observation, analyzing your surroundings.
What about the spending of your dollars, black dollars?
Well, money is a created entity, in my opinion, by the current state of oppressors that run things. They created this monetary system to their benefit.
Okay.
So you can use some monetary means to help your situation, but I think it's more so behavior, changing the way you think, in how you act will contribute to not only better decisions with money, but how to use your money in a wise way. But you can't be ignorant to the fact that they control the money and the money flow.
Okay.
So the goal of Neely Fuller is to dismantle the whole system. And I agree, the system has to be dismantled. But the question is, how do you do that? And I know one way to start dismantling it is not playing into what they want you to do. You know how you act generally in this oppressed state. So, Brother Ray,
Yes.
iration,
Yes, sir.
come with it.
Well, I agree with what you're saying as well, but I do believe that closing the gap on information can give you a better insight on what's working against you. If you don't know there's a problem, you don't even have any idea there's some things that need to be solved. I mean, you give, for instance, could you fathom body parts harvesting? The value that could be placed on a sick man's organs or just dead people body parts, heart valve, skin, bones, DNA, any kind of an idea.
Well, I know if there's a market for it, and we're in this system called capitalism,
Okay.
which is a offshoot of white supremacy racism.
Okay.
There's a market for it. It's going to be used.
So very possible that this is going on. Now, do you have any idea how many people will not have any idea as to the nature of the predators we live amidst?
Well, if you are a full participant in the way of the oppressor,
Right.
and taking on their ways, you're joining in with what they're doing.
Okay.
And by you being ignorant to the facts of that it's really against you, you're just going to keep participating,
Right.
and capitalize along with them on your own demise.
Right. So, and I guess it would be safe to say that a person that's farther away from their history are more susceptible to become vulnerable to the system, could be exploited, and even face death early.
Yeah, so it's good to know history that's current,
Okay.
and the constant play on what they're doing to you and against you as a people. So you got to know current American history to really know that you are the person and the target of the system to be capitalized off of.
But question, do you think the past?
Okay. Well, we kind of got interrupted because of a church session, and it was right below us. We was in an office building, and we're surely to come back with more. So stay tuned.